So once again, thank you all so much for joining. Sure appreciate it. And we will start the class with a small prayer. Everyone can mute themselves. That would be awesome. Thank you so much. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are continuing with Bhagavad Gita as it is by Srila Prabhupada, chapter number 4, which is entitled Transcendental Knowledge. So today we will continue with verse number 39 and we will conclude the chapter today. Verse number 39 in Sanskrit. Shraddhava labhate jnanam tatparaha samayen tridiyaha jnanam labdva param shantim achirenadikachati. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. A faithful man who is dedicated to transcendental knowledge and who subdues his senses is eligible to achieve such knowledge. And having achieved it, he quickly attains the supreme spiritual peace. Om Chakshur Unmanitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave. So very happy to see all of you in this session today. And as we've been learning in chapter 4, basically the history of the Bhagavad Gita, how old is the Bhagavad Gita, and it is a spiritual science, and how we can attain supreme spiritual peace. So this is what we've been learning. And today's verse, Krishna is talking to Arjuna about faith. So he's talking about faithful people. What does that mean? It means someone has complete trust in something sublime. That means someone has strong belief in the Supreme Lord based on spiritual proof. Now, sometimes it's very difficult to give a proof which is very tangible. Say, for instance, I tell you all that I am hungry, and then you ask me, give me proof that you're hungry. There's no proof for hunger. It's something that you feel. So when it's something to do with faith, especially when it is about spirituality, it should be based on references from the scriptures. But sometimes people say, I don't believe in God because I can't see him. Well, why should God be present before us if we are not qualified to see him? Sometimes someone may inquire from the mother and say, I want to know who my father is. I have not seen my father. So she says, okay, Mr. X is your father. And he says, well, give me proof. How can she give proof? She cannot. But the child has to have faith in the words of the mother, that the mother is speaking the truth and this is the father. She gives knowledge about the father. So similarly, our Supreme Father, which is Krishna, if we want to know, how do we know, where is the proof, where is the mother, Supreme Mother, that can tell us who is the Supreme Father? That is the scriptures. The scriptures, especially the Vedas, they are full of references about who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Brahma Samhita, we all know that there are Vedas, there are Upanishads, there are Puranas, there's Mahabharata, Ramayana, there's so many scriptures. And some of the references that I can give today, which proves that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, the reason we are stressing so much on this is because we are hearing the words of Krishna. And Krishna himself tells us in the Bhagavad Gita that he is the Supreme Lord. That is why it is the verse is said, Sri Bhagavana Uvacha, the Supreme Lord said. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Bhoktaram Yagna Tapasam, Sarvaloka Maheshwara, Maha Ishwara. He is the Lord of all. So this is what we get from the Bhagavad Gita. But in the essence of the Vedas, which is called the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a beautiful verse which says, Ete Chamsa Kalapumsa, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna, you yourself are the Supreme Lord. Bhagavan. Bhagavan means the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And just like, we have our qualifications, if we are an engineer or a doctor or whatever field we may be in, we have some qualifications, we have some certifications, some degrees. So also the Supreme Lord also has qualifications, and the scriptures tell us, Ashwarasya Samagrasya Viryasya Yashashriya, gives the qualifications of the Lord. So here, Krishna, who is the Supreme Lord, is giving transcendental knowledge to his friend Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and he's talking about faith. Now, anything that we do in life, basic faith is very important. Say, I want to take a bus from my home to the airport. Now, I have to have that basic faith that if I step on this bus in Atlanta, it's called MARTA, as when I'm getting into this bus, I have to have that basic faith that the driver has a driving license, there is enough gas in the bus, and the driver knows the directions to the airport. I have to have that basic faith. And what is that basic faith dependent on? On its bona fide authority. If that bus service is by a bona fide company, then I don't have to worry. Then I have the faith that this bus is going to take me from point A to point B. So bona fide authority. So basic faith is required. We send our children to school because we have that faith that they are going to learn from bona fide certified teachers so that they can progress in their life, and then they go into college and then get a degree, etc., etc. So in the scriptures, it says, Adau Shraddha Tatha Sadhu Sangha Bhajana Kriya Anartha Nivriti. So this is the process. So we have basic faith, then we do Sadhu Sangha, which means we associate with like-minded people, with spiritually minded people, so that we can learn from them. And when we do that, then we start following what we hear. We put it into practice, and then gradually our faith starts becoming more and more firm, because all the unwanted things from the heart, they get removed because of the cleansing of the heart. So in this process, we cannot depend on our mind, on our senses, or even our intelligence, because they can trick us. Why? Because I'm not sure if we would like to hear this, but that is a fact, that we human beings, we have 4 defects, which means we are defective pieces. Sorry for that language, but we have 4 defects. What are those 4 defects? We have imperfect senses. We have tendency to cheat. We are an illusion, and we may make mistakes. That is why there's a statement, to err is human, to make mistakes is human. Human beings make mistakes. So if we are not perfect, we cannot give perfect knowledge. Perfect knowledge comes only from perfect source. So if we have basic faith that Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavad means God, Gita means song, it's a song of God. If in this Bhagavad Gita, if we have that faith that it was spoken by the Supreme Lord himself, then we will be able to understand this transcendental knowledge. And this verse that I recited today, it is talking about the eligibility required to get this knowledge. Now one may say, why do we need to be eligible to hear Bhagavad Gita? This is true, we do. What is the eligibility? That we have to have a lot of piety, which means we should have performed pious activities in the past. And that is why today we have the opportunity to hear Bhagavad Gita. It is not everybody who gets the opportunity to hear. Many of them get the opportunity, but they do not take advantage of it. Just like I advertise on Facebook page about this event, there's a class which is every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Many people are interested. They say coming, like today's class 45 said they are coming, but not everybody decided to actually attend the class. So my point is that we get the opportunity, but not everybody takes advantage of it. So what is it? What is the eligibility? That we have to have some piety in our past to get this opportunity. And what is the result of hearing Bhagavad Gita, this transcendental knowledge? It gives us supreme spiritual peace. This is what we learned in this today's verse, where Krishna is giving a guarantee that if we hear attentively this transcendental knowledge and put it into practice in our day-to-day life, then we will achieve supreme spiritual peace. Now, Bhagavad Gita, it gives us a process. Of course, it gives us a peace formula where if we follow that formula, then we will get peace of mind. It gives us a formula to lead a karma-free life, which means no reactions, no sufferings. It gives us a process by which we can break the cycle of birth and death and go back to the spiritual world. So there's a lot of information, a lot of knowledge in the Bhagavad Gita, which is actually in 18 chapters, 700 Sanskrit verses with translations and purports by Srila Prabhupada. So we are talking about faith that we learned in this verse from today. Now, faith, if we have basic faith, then we need to make it strong. How? By regularity, by doing what Krishna is suggesting. The one thing that he suggests is Satatam Kirtayanto Mam Yatantascha Dhrida. He says that if we chant, if we do mantra meditation on a daily basis, then that meditation will cleanse our heart and our faith will start becoming stronger and stronger. So just like I talk about, mantra meditation, chanting on all, on my classes. So here are these beads, on which we chant the Maha Mantra. And this is what helps us to cleanse our heart. Pardon me for saying this, but I am very happy to see you, Stephen, after a very long time. And I was hoping you are keeping good health because we really missed you in our session. So thank you for joining. So if we start doing this mantra meditation, it will help us to make our faith strong, because all the unwanted things will start getting removed from the heart and our senses will start coming under control. So this verse that I recited today is giving us the qualifications of someone who is eligible to receive this transcendental knowledge. Now, Krishna continues to give this knowledge to Arjuna, and he says, if one doesn't have faith, then one will not be peaceful. So it is very important. So if a person remains ignorant of this knowledge, and if a person remains faithless, or if a person doubts, then Krishna says, then one cannot attain me, which is the Supreme Lord. In fact, he very strongly puts it in the next verse where he says, for the doubting soul, there is neither happiness in this life nor in the next. Makes it very clear. So if we doubt, so I was giving you the example that if I don't know who my father is, It is only my mother who knows who my real father is. And if I doubt her, then I'm not going to be peaceful, because then I will be like, oh, I don't trust my mother. I don't have faith in her words. Let me do my own research and find out who my real father is. So that is a very long drawn process. So for the doubting soul, Krishna says there's happiness neither in this life nor in the next. And today's topic, as I posted in the event, is what is the difference between faithless and doubtful? Now, one may say it's kind of interrelated, it's kind of the same. If a person is faithless, then obviously that person is doubtful. And if a person is in doubt, then obviously doesn't have faith. We feel that way. Okay. So Krishna says those who are ignorant, who don't have the knowledge, those who are faithless, and those who are doubtful, all these three kinds of people cannot progress spiritually. They will fall down. They will fail on the spiritual path. Sometimes when people, especially human beings, this human form is very, very rare. Out of 8.4 million species of life, human form is very, very rare. We talked about this in our last Tuesday's class, and how I divided, how many different species of insects and aquatics and all different based on the scriptures. So we got that reference. But if a human being, after getting philosophical intelligence, where the human being is much better than an animal, because human being can differentiate between what is right, what is wrong, what is beneficial, what is harmful, that intelligence is there. So Krishna says, after receiving the human form, if a person does not inquire about self-realization, remains ignorant, then is no different than an animal. Because what does the animal do? Eat, sleep, mate, and defend. And if we human beings also just do these four activities, then we are not better than the animals. So those who are faithless, then they try to live on this philosophy of eat, sleep, and be merry. This is what life is all about. There is no spiritual knowledge at all. But Krishna says that there are some faithless people who have knowledge of the scriptures, but they don't trust them. So for instance, we have heard about the Vedic scriptures. So a person knows that there is Vedic scripture, and, knows that there is spiritual knowledge in it, but does not trust those scriptures, and then so remains faithless. And doubtful, what is the difference between doubtful? A person who is doubtful has faith, but can easily be swayed. I'll give you a nice story. This I had heard a long time ago. So there were two different villages in India, and in one village, the villagers came to know that there is a very spiritually saintly personality in the other village who is giving this transcendental knowledge to everyone. So they decided that, oh, why don't we call him to our village and he can teach us also. So they invited this great personality, and he, of course, came. And as he sat down, his first question was that, how many of you have faith in the Supreme Lord and his instructions? So they all, were doubtful, and they're like gradually putting their hands up and gradually, trying to say, yes, we do have faith in the Supreme Lord. So this person, the speaker, he said, well, looks like some of you don't have faith, and so there is no point in my speaking. And he went back to his village. So here these villagers were confused. They said, oh, that means we have to have faith to hear him. So they called him again. And when they called him again, so he asked the same question. So how many of you have faith in the Supreme Lord and the Vedic scriptures? They all put their hands up. because they knew if even if they are faithless, if they don't say we have faith, he's going to again go away. So then the speaker said, well, you all have faith in the Supreme Lord. So there's nothing for me to tell you. You already know everything. And he went away. Now they were very confused. It was like, what is going on? If we, say we don't have faith, he doesn't speak. We say we have faith, he doesn't speak. Now, what should we do? So they decided, let's call him one last time. And we will divide ourselves into two sections. One will say we have faith, the other will say we don't have faith. Then that way he'll have to speak to us. Sure enough, he came the third time and he asked the same question. And sure enough, they separated themselves. Half of them said, we have faith. The other half said, we don't have faith. So the speaker said, well, those of you who have faith, why don't you give the knowledge to those who don't have faith? And he went away. So what do we learn from this? Faith is not something that changes according to time, place, and circumstance. Faith has to be very firm. First, we have basic faith. We take on transcendental knowledge and build up that faith and make it very strong. So Krishna is saying that those who are doubtful, their faith can be swayed. One day here, one day over there. And those who are doubtful, they may have some faith, but because they are still in doubt, they do not follow with full faith. They are doubtful. So Krishna says, for the doubtful, for those who are doubting, the doubting soul, there's peace neither in this life nor in the next life. In fact, out of all the Vedic literatures, out of the essence of Vedas, which is the Srimad Bhagavatam, and the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam is the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says Bhagavad Gita is the best. It is called Rajavidya Rajaguhyam. We learn in chapter 9 that it is a king of education. Bhagavad Gita, in the beginning of chapter 4, Krishna says that this spiritual science, he's calling this Bhagavad Gita as a spiritual science. He doesn't call it a religion. He doesn't call it something sentimental. He says it's a spiritual science. And he says this was spoken 120 million years ago. So this is a very, very old scripture, and it gives us knowledge about how to lead this human form of life in such a way that we become self-realized, which means we realize who we really are. Most of us realize ourselves as this body, like we relate to our bodies, but we don't really have the knowledge to understand who we really are, that is the spirit soul. So if we understand the Bhagavad Gita with faith and take on this knowledge, then Krishna says we will become free from karma. You see, we have learned that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. We've already heard that. So Krishna says that if we understand Bhagavad Gita, then our actions will be performed in such consciousness that there will be no reactions. It'll become a karma-free life. And when we start practicing karma-free life, then all the doubts also disappear. Why? Because we are trying to understand the transcendental knowledge. So and this Bhagavad Gita is so simple. In fact, I've been practicing it for 35 years now, and I have seen a lot of change in myself, in my consciousness. It really brings a lot of peace of mind. It makes you happy no matter what the situation. So here, Bhagavad Gita, if we learn, it can be applied in the place of work, at home, in social circle, with relatives, everywhere. Bhagavad Gita can be very easily applied. All we need to understand, of course, we learned in chapter 3, but we learn again in chapter 5 about karma yoga, how to perform our actions in such consciousness that we do not start incurring any reactions. We need to go above the bodily concept of life, and so that we can remove all our doubts And that will be possible only with the mercy of the Supreme Lord. We can make an effort, but it is His mercy that will help us to be successful in spirituality. He only needs to see our sincerity and seriousness. And the first step that Krishna teaches us in the Bhagavad Gita is to meditate, to calm the mind, to calm the senses, to control the senses, to control the mind, to control the intelligence also. He teaches us how we can do that in a simple process of mantra meditation. We chant the mantra because the sound vibrations of the mantra, they go straight to the heart and they cleanse the heart of all the unwanted things to make it pure and clean. And that is also, the mantra meditation also helps us to remove our doubts. And so Arjuna, we see now this whole Bhagavad Gita was spoken in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Kurukshetra is in India. And we see that Arjuna is sitting on his chariot. He is the greatest, you can say, in Sanskrit is called a Kshatriya, a warrior. He's the greatest warrior at that time. This is 5,000 years ago. So here he's sitting on the chariot. He's morose. He is very sad. He's confused and he's lamenting. Why? Because he is seeing that those who have come to fight against him are his relatives and he doesn't want to kill them, which is natural. And he's determined, I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight them. So Krishna is speaking the whole Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna so that he can understand that his relatives, whom he's thinking he's going to kill, are not going to die. Why? Because his relatives are not the body, they are the spirit soul. And Krishna says, Mamaya Amsha Jivaloke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. Sanatana means eternal, that the spirit soul is eternal. No one can kill the spirit soul. It's just like I'm wearing this garment today. Once this gets old, I'm going to throw this away and I'm going to put on new garments. So this body is like a garment for the soul. As soon as this body gets old, it is thrown away, it goes to ashes, and the soul takes on another body. This is what Krishna is trying to explain to Arjuna, that you need to stand up and need to fight. You're not killing them. You're just destroying the bodies. They are all irreligious people. They have committed a lot of sinful activities, and it is time for them to die. And you, being a warrior, it's your prescribed duty to fight, to kill them in this battle. So be fixed in transcendental knowledge. This is the advice Krishna is giving Arjuna. In other words, he's giving this advice to us also. He's trying to tell us how we should perform our activities. He's not saying that, once you start understanding Bhagavad Gita, you have to give up your family. Someone may be happy to give up family, or you have to give up your spouse. Someone may be happy to give up the spouse, get rid of them or whatever. Or you have to give up your work and you have to give up everything and you have to go to the mountains and meditate. Nope. Krishna is not telling that to Arjuna. He's telling him, you be where you are with your family and you do your prescribed duty of a warrior. You are in the battlefield and it's your duty to fight. So, but you perform your actions in such a way that you're not thinking of the fruits of your activities. See, what causes bondage for us in this material world is expectations, expecting fruits from our activities. So that is what puts us in bondage. But Krishna is asking Arjuna to work with knowledge, and then there's going to be no reactions. Remove your doubts with the weapon of knowledge. Because this Bhagavad Gita is not about blind faith. It's not that, I tell you, come on, do this, this, and this, and you do that. No, it's not blind faith. It is based on knowledge. So we have come towards the end of the chapter 4, entitled Transcendental Knowledge. And in this chapter, Srila Prabhupada, he's explaining this chapter in different sections. First of all, he talks about the goal of sacrifice. We heard about sacrifice. We heard many verses where Krishna says, we must perform our actions as a sacrifice. And sacrifice means we are not thinking about the fruits of our actions. Oh, if I do this, then this is what I'm going to get in return. And then I'm going to enjoy the fruits of my activities. No. He's talking about Sanatana Yoga. Yoga means linking with the Supreme, and Sanatana means eternal form of yoga. He's talking about explaining about our eternal position. We are parts of the Supreme Lord and we are eternal. We are the spirit soul. So we heard in previous verses where Krishna is asking Arjuna to sacrifice material possessions. In other words, don't get so attached to material possessions that, okay, it's good to have possessions, but not get attached to them. You understand? It's like, you must have heard about that famous warrior. What was his name? Alexander the Great. We've heard about Alexander the Great. He conquered almost every every piece of land he could find. He was such a great warrior, and that's why he was called Alexander the Great. He was really great. But as he was about to leave his body, as he was about to die, he instructed the citizens there that when you bury me, make sure my hands are out of the grave. Hands should be out. So the question was, why? Normally, when we bury the body, it's the whole body and then we cover it with mud or whatever. But he said, no, my hands should be out. I want to teach the world that Alexander the Great, who had so much opulence, he had so many material possessions, but at the time of death, he went empty-handed. He couldn't take anything with him. Everything is left behind over here. So Krishna is teaching us that we should not be attached to our material possessions. If we do have material possessions, we should use it in his service. Let me give you an example. I'm using this MacBook Air, this laptop. It is a material possession, right? It costs money, but right now it's been used for a spiritual purpose. It is being used to give transcendental knowledge from the Bhagavad Gita. So ignorance, that can be removed by gradual acceptance of this transcendental knowledge. Now, sacrifice, it's a very big word. People get scared. Oh, you're asking me to sacrifice? Oh, please don't ask me to sacrifice this or sacrifice that. I'm ready to do, a little bit here, a little bit there. But what exactly does sacrifice mean? Sacrifice means, Krishna says, regulated life. Our eating, sleeping, everything, our work, everything should be regulated. And regulation is good. Just like we follow regulations at place of work, like there is a discipline to be followed. There is a certain time we have to reach the office, and there is X number of hours we need to work. Or for instance, for kids, they need to reach school at a certain time, and at a certain time the school ends. So there are certain regulations. The children have to follow some sort of discipline. That's called regulation. So also in our day-to-day life, we need to have regulation. If we eat too much, we're going to have trouble with our body. If we eat too little, we'll have trouble with our body. So it has to be balanced, neither too much nor too little. Krishna even explains to Arjuna, one should not sleep too much nor too little. There also needs to be regulation so that we can focus on the real purpose of human life, which is self-realization. So if we doubt the authority of Krishna, if we doubt that Krishna actually did not speak the Bhagavad Gita, or if we doubt that Krishna actually is not the Supreme Lord, in spite of different references from the Vedic scriptures, then no one can really help us. So Krishna is trying to explain that we should learn about our own selves, who we are. We are the spirit souls. That is our real identity. And we also need to learn who is the Supreme Lord. So when we try to understand Bhagavad Gita, we will learn both. We will learn how to realize who we are, and we will learn who Krishna is. And that is going to be beneficial, right? In this chapter itself, we learned Janma Karma Chame Divyam Evam Yoveti Tatvataha Tyaktva Deham Punarjanma Neti Mameti. So Arjuna, Krishna gave us a formula by which we can break the cycle of birth and death, which means we don't come back again into this material world. And what is the requirement? He says, if one can understand the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities, that means Krishna's appearance in this material world and his transcendental activities in this material world, then he says at the time of death, one will not come back into this material world in a material body, but will get on a spiritual body and go to the spiritual world. So it's important that we properly learn this transcendental knowledge. And for that, one needs guidance from a teacher. Just like if I want to learn karate, dance, music, pottery, anything, I definitely need a teacher, and that too a bona fide teacher, so that someone who is not only certified and bona fide, but also has experience, so that they can teach us what we want to learn. Similarly, Bhagavad Gita also, we need to learn from a certified teacher. By the way, I'm certified in Bhagavad Gita. So we learn, we understand, we get the guidance, and we learn how to run this human form of life. If we see, we all have got minute independence, very little independence. It's, I can give you an example. Like, I have a fenced backyard, and I asked my grandson that, okay, here is this backyard for you. Just go and do whatever you want to do. But then there is a fence. He cannot go outside the fence. It's only that area where he is allowed to do what he wants to do, right? So we also, in this material world, we have that minute independence, but there is a fence. Based on our past karma, our actions, we are facing reactions, and we are working in that fenced area. So that area is, that independence is actually very minute, very little. So there is a possibility that we may misuse that minute independence. The child, like my grandson in the backyard, he may say, oh, this whole backyard belongs to me, and I am the king of this backyard, and I will do whatever I want to do. So he can use it or he can misuse it. He can try to destroy the backyard or do whatever. So we have this minute independence, so we can actually use our intelligence to understand how to attain that supreme perfection, how to attain that supreme peace, how to attain that supreme level, that supreme platform. And Bhagavad Gita helps us, with the help of knowledge, to remove our doubts and make our faith more firm gradually. And the first step to do that is some practicals. We hear Bhagavad Gita, which is a theory, and the practical is mantra meditation. Just like after every class, we just chant for a few minutes, just a few minutes, so that we can, get the benefit of those sound vibrations. So I've posted, some links, but at the bottom you will see the mantra that we chant. It is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is called the Maha Mantra. Man means mind, Tra means to free the mind of all anxieties. So Maha means the greatest. So this is the greatest chant that can help us to remove the anxiety that might be there in our minds. So if you don't mind, I will just chant for a few minutes to give you a hang of it, and then you can try it at your leisure. Whenever you have time, you can try to chant. It'll be nice if you chant every day, and then you will see the difference in consciousness, then how the mind is becoming more peaceful, it's not agitated so much, and then gradually the cleansing of the heart will take place. So let us chant. If you like, you can chant with me for a few minutes. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. It's very simple. So I just chanted 10 times. And if we chant 108 times, it takes about 10 minutes. That's about it. Not too much time. So if you like, you can try. And if any of you is interested in having a chanting session, we can schedule one where we can meet at a certain time, maybe on a daily basis or once a week, where we can all chant together. So if you're interested, please let me know, and we can do it either on Zoom or we can do it on a phone call. We have some japa sessions. It's called japa. Chanting means japa. And we have these sessions where we can chant together. What happens when we chant together, we feel more enlivened. There is more spiritual energy around. So I'm going to end now, and if anyone has any